So, I'm sitting on a plush leather couch, trying my best to look heartbroken and confused, which, let's be honest, wasn't that hard. Across from me is my wife, Sarah, looking all enlightened and compassionate. And on the big screen I've hooked my laptop up to is the pixelated face of Dr. Julian, her so-called therapist. The real therapist, a stern-looking woman named Dr. Evans whose office we were actually in, just cleared her throat. I took that as my cue. Okay, I said, forcing a little tremor into my voice. Before we talk about my inability to embrace emotional evolution, as Julian so kindly puts it, maybe he can explain this. And that's when I clicked play on a video file. The video showed my living room, specifically the couch I was currently sitting on. And on that couch were two people who were definitely not just discussing their feelings. My wife, Sarah, and her therapist, Dr. Julian. The silence in that room was so complete, you could hear a pin drop, and you could practically see the souls leaving both of their bodies through their wide-open mouths. Yeah, that was a fun Tuesday. But to understand how we got there, you gotta go back 6 months. Let me paint you a picture. Me, I'm Mark, 34. I'm a pretty simple guy. I work in logistics, which is a boring way of saying I make sure stuff gets from one place to another. I like baseball, grilling, and, up until recently, I thought I had the perfect marriage. My wife, Sarah, was the center of my universe. We met in college, and she was just everything. Smart, funny, ambitious. She worked in marketing, a high-pressure job, but she always handled it with this incredible grace. We had a nice little house in the suburbs, a golden retriever named Buddy, the whole 9 yards. For 10 years, life was good. It was stable. It was ours. But then things started to feel a little off. It wasn't one big thing, you know? It was a bunch of little things. She started staying later at work, coming home exhausted and distant. Our dinner conversations, which used to be the highlight of my day, became one-word answers. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd just sigh and say, fine. The spark, that easy comfort we'd always had, was just dimming. I tried to talk to her about it, of course. I'd say, hey, is everything okay? You seem stressed. And she'd just wave it off. It's just work, Mark. We have this huge new product launch. It's draining. And what was I supposed to do? I believed her. I'd rub her shoulders, run her a bath, do whatever I could to try and ease that stress. Because I loved her, and that's what you do. The real shift happened about 6 months ago. Sarah announced she was going on a week-long work retreat in California. A wellness and strategy conference, she called it, to recharge and realign. I thought it was a great idea. Babe, that's awesome, I told her. You deserve a break. Go have fun, soak up some sun. I packed her bags with her, made sure she had her favorite snacks for the plane. I drove her to the airport at 5 a.m. and kissed her goodbye, telling her to call me every night. For that whole week, I missed her like crazy. The house felt empty. I sent her pictures of Buddy, told her about my day, you know, the usual stuff. Her replies were sporadic. Short texts. So busy. Session starting. Talk later. I figured, okay, it's a work thing. They're keeping them busy. No big deal. When she came back, she was different. It wasn't the relaxed, recharged Sarah I was expecting. She was strange, almost unnaturally calm, with this weird, serene smile plastered on her face. The first night she was back, I made her favorite dinner, steak and potatoes. We sat down, and I was so excited to hear all about her trip. That's when she dropped the bomb. She put her fork down, looked me dead in the eye, and said, Mark, we need to talk. I've been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of self-exploration. And I think we should open our marriage. I literally choked on my potato. I thought it was a joke. I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline. But she was dead serious. What are you talking about? I finally managed to stammer out. Open our what? Like, see other people? It's not about seeing other people, she said, using air quotes like she was quoting from some self-help book. It's about personal growth. It's about allowing ourselves to have experiences that enrich us as individuals, so we can be stronger as a couple. It's about letting go of outdated concepts of possession and jealousy. My brain felt like it was short-circuiting. Possession? Jealousy? Sarah, it's called marriage. It's called being committed to each other. Where is this coming from? And that's when I first heard his name. I've been talking to a therapist, she said calmly. Dr. Julian. He was at the conference. He's a specialist in modern relationships and personal fulfillment. He's been helping me realize that I've been feeling constrained, stifled. And it's not your fault, she added, reaching across the table to pat my hand like I was a sick child. It's society. It's the patriarchal constructs we've been conditioned to accept. I pulled my hand back. I felt sick. Patriarchal constructs? Stifled? We had a great life. Or so I thought. So, you go away for a week, talk to some quack, and now you want to throw our entire marriage in the trash? My voice was rising. I couldn't help it. I'm not throwing it away. Mark, I'm trying to save it, she insisted. Dr. Julian says that if we don't evolve, we'll stagnate. This is how we can both be truly happy and fulfilled. The conversation went in circles for hours. I was confused, hurt, angry. Every argument I made, she countered with some pre-packaged line of psychobabble that I was sure came straight from this Dr. Julian. You're reacting from a place of fear. Your ego is getting in the way of your enlightenment. It was like talking to a stranger who had swallowed a thesaurus of New Age nonsense. By the end of the night, I was exhausted. I agreed to think about it. What else could I do? She was my wife. But as I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I had this cold, sinking feeling in my gut. This wasn't about evolution. Something was very, very wrong. The next few weeks were a living hell. Sarah started having weekly sessions with Dr. Julian over video chat. She'd lock herself in the study for an hour, and when she came out, she'd have this smug look on her face and a new set of criticisms for me. Suddenly, everything I did was wrong. My desire for a quiet night and watching a movie was a refusal to engage with the world. My job was unfulfilling and a symbol of my attachment to the capitalist machine. My suggestion that we go on a weekend trip, just the two of us, was an attempt to control her and put her back in a box. She also started going out more, a lot more, with friends from the conference. New friends I'd never met or even heard of. She'd come home late, smelling of expensive perfume and wine, and just float off to bed without so much as a good night. I felt like I was losing my mind. I was living with a ghost. Then came the financial stuff. I handle our finances, always have. Sarah's always been more of a big-picture person, you know? One day, I was paying bills and noticed a charge on our joint credit card. A $200 dinner at a fancy French restaurant in the city. I asked her about it. Oh, that was a networking dinner with some of the women from the retreat, she said, not even looking up from her phone. A few days later, another charge. A weekend wellness workshop that cost nearly $1,000. Another workshop, Sarah? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. We're trying to save for a new roof, remember? Mark, you can't put a price on self-improvement, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. Dr. Julian says investing in your mental and emotional well-being is the most important investment you can make. I swear, if I heard that guy's name one more time, I was going to scream. I started looking closer at the statements. The expensive dinners, the workshops, the little boutique purchases, they all seemed to happen on the same day she had her therapy sessions or was out with her new friends. My stomach was in knots. This wasn't just about an open marriage anymore. This was about respect and honesty, and I wasn't getting either. The breaking point, the moment I knew I had to do something, came one rainy Saturday afternoon. Sarah was out, supposedly at a yoga class. I was cleaning out the study, and I found a notebook she'd left behind. It was her therapy journal. I know, I shouldn't have looked, but I was desperate. My hands were shaking as I opened it. It wasn't a journal. It was filled with notes from her sessions with Dr. Julian. But the notes, they weren't about self-improvement. They were about me. Page after page of my faults, twisted and magnified. Mark's insecurity is a barrier. Mark's conventional mindset is an anchor. Julian says I need to find a partner who can soar with me, not just watch me from the ground. And then I saw it. Tucked into the back of the notebook was a brochure for the Wellness and Strategy Conference she went to. I looked it over, and there, listed as a keynote speaker, was a picture of a man. Smarmy smile, slicked back hair. Julian Croft, life coach and relationship visionary. Not Dr. Julian. Julian Croft, life coach. A quick Google search told me everything I needed to know. Julian Croft had no license, no PhD, no credentials of any kind, other than a slick website full of buzzwords and a collection of 5-star reviews that were probably written by his mom. He was a fraud, a con artist, and my wife wasn't just his client. The way she wrote about him, it was glowing, adoring. My blood ran cold. This wasn't therapy. This was an affair, a full-blown emotional, and I was now pretty sure, physical affair, disguised as some kind of spiritual journey. The pain was unbelievable. It was this raw, physical ache in my chest. For 10 years, I had given this woman everything. My love, my loyalty, my future. And she had thrown it all away for some fake guru with a good sales pitch. For a moment, I just wanted to smash everything in sight. I wanted to scream. But then, a strange calm washed over me. The confusion and the hurt were still there, but underneath it all, a new feeling was growing. Anger. Cold, hard, and sharp as a razor. I wasn't just going to confront her. Oh no, that was too easy. They had humiliated me. They had played me for a fool. I wasn't going down without a fight. I was going to expose them, both of them, and I was going to use their own game against them. My plan started to form. It was crazy, maybe a little unhinged, but I didn't care. Sarah wanted to talk about feelings and communication? Fine. We were going to have the most communicative therapy session of all time. First, I did some more digging on Julian Croft. I found his office address online. It wasn't in some fancy high-rise. It was a rented room in a shared workspace building. Very professional. I also found his personal social media. His profile picture was him on a sailboat, surrounded by women in bikinis. Real visionary stuff. Next, I went online and bought a couple of those tiny nanny cams. The kind that look like a USB charger. I put one in the living room and one in our bedroom. I felt gross doing it, like I was violating my own home. But my home had already been violated. I was just gathering the evidence. Then, I went to Sarah. I put on my best beaten man act. I told her I'd been doing a lot of thinking, and maybe she was right. Maybe I was being old-fashioned. I told her I was willing to try and understand, but I needed help. I suggested we find a local therapist, a proper one, to help us navigate this open relationship idea together. To my surprise, she agreed. She probably thought I was finally coming around, finally being enlightened. She was so wrapped up in her own narrative, she couldn't see the truth if it hit her in the face. So I found a therapist, Dr. Evans. She was the real deal. PhD, 20 years of experience, a no-nonsense reputation. I booked a session for the following Tuesday. Then, I executed the final part of my plan. I created a fake email address and contacted Julian Croft, pretending to be a new client. I told him I was a man in a struggling marriage, and my wife was pushing for an open relationship, and I'd heard he was the expert who could help me evolve. His ego was so big, he took the bait immediately. I booked a video consultation with him, for the same time as our appointment with Dr. Evans. The week leading up to it was the longest of my life. I had to act normal. I had to pretend like my heart wasn't a pile of shattered glass in my chest. The cameras paid off on Sunday night. Sarah thought I was asleep. She went into the living room for a late-night call with a friend. It was Julian. I have the whole thing recorded. It was disgusting. They weren't just talking. They were planning their future. A future that didn't include me. That was all the confirmation I needed. Tuesday arrived. I told Sarah I had a work meeting in the morning, but I'd meet her at Dr. Evans' office. I actually went to a coffee shop, my laptop in my bag, my heart pounding in my chest. I got to the therapist's office a few minutes before Sarah. I quickly explained the situation to Dr. Evans. I showed her Julian's website and a small snippet of the video. To her credit, she didn't even flinch. She just nodded slowly, her face like stone, and said, "Okay, let's see how this plays out." Sarah walked in, all smiles, looking like the cat that got the cream. We sat down on the couch. Dr. Evans started the session, asking us about our goals. Sarah launched into her pre-rehearsed speech about personal growth and breaking free from monogamous constraints. I let her talk for about 10 minutes. I nodded along, looking sad and thoughtful. Then, I turned to Dr. Evans. "You know, doctor," I said, "I think it would be helpful to get a third perspective in here. The person who has been guiding Sarah on this journey. Her therapist, Dr. Julian." Sarah's eyes lit up. "That's a great idea, Mark. I'm so proud of you for being so open to this." "I am," I said, pulling out my laptop. "In fact, I have him on the line right now." I opened my laptop, which was already connected to the large TV on the wall. I started the video call. Julian's smarmy face appeared on the screen. He was sitting in his little rented office, a fake bookshelf behind him. "Julian," Sarah said, beaming. "Mark wanted you to join us." "Of course," Julian said, smiling his oily smile. "I'm always happy to facilitate a breakthrough. Mark, it's brave of you to face your insecurities head on." And that's when I dropped the act. My face went from sad to stone cold. "Yeah, I'm feeling really brave today, Julian. Or should I say, Mr. Croft? Life coach, right? Not a doctor." The smiles on both their faces vanished. Julian's eyes darted around. Sarah looked at me, her mouth hanging open. "Mark, what are you doing?" "I'm just getting all the professionals in the room," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Since you two are experts on open relationships, I thought you could analyze some footage for us. Give us your professional opinion." And that's when I clicked play. The video that appeared on the screen was crystal clear. HD quality. It was from the living room camera. It showed Sarah and Julian, on our couch, tangled up together. It was from 2 nights ago. There was no sound, but none was needed. The images spoke for themselves. The color drained from Sarah's face. She looked like she was going to be sick. On the screen, Julian looked like a deer in the headlights. He was stammering, trying to say something, but no words were coming out. Dr. Evans, the real therapist, just sat there, her expression unreadable. She finally spoke, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "Mr. Croft," she said, looking at the screen. "Do you carry professional liability insurance for this kind of visionary work?" That's when I turned to Sarah. The look of utter betrayal and shock on her face was almost satisfying. "You didn't want an open marriage, Sarah," I said, my voice shaking with rage I didn't know I had. "You just wanted a way to cheat without feeling guilty. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too, and you used this fraud to justify it. You destroyed our marriage, our home, for him." Sarah started crying, sobbing really. "Mark, I can explain." "No," I said, standing up. "You can't. You can explain it to your lawyer." "And you," I said, pointing at the screen where Julian was frantically trying to end the call. "You can expect to hear from mine too. And I'd start updating your website. I have a feeling you're going to be getting a lot of new reviews." I walked out of that office and didn't look back. I left her there, with the real therapist and the giant-sized image of her and her lover on the screen. The aftermath was exactly as messy as you'd expect. Sarah's parents, who'd always loved me, were horrified. Apparently, Sarah tried to spin some story about me being controlling and manipulative, but the video evidence was pretty hard to argue with. The divorce was brutal, but quick. My lawyer was a shark. With proof of adultery and the documentation of all the money she'd spent on her little self-improvement journey with Julian, she didn't get much. I got the house. I got the dog. She got a lesson in consequences. As for Julian Croft, his life coaching business seems to have disappeared. A few well-placed, anonymous reviews detailing his methods, along with a formal complaint to the Better Business Bureau, did the trick. I don't know what happened to him, and honestly, I don't care. It's been a few months now. It's been hard. Healing from that kind of betrayal isn't easy. But every day gets a little better. I've got Buddy, I've got my friends, and I've got my self-respect back. I learned that my quiet, stable life wasn't stifling or unevolved. It was real, and it was something worth fighting for. I just ended up fighting to get it back for myself, not for us. So yeah, that's how a fake therapist and a work trip ended my 10-year marriage. It was a complete nightmare, but you know what? Waking up from it was the best thing that ever happened to me. If you want to hear more crazy stories about my journey back to sanity, make sure you hit that subscribe button because you won't believe the date my best friend tried to set me up on next.